Hello, everybody. Welcome to the season finale of The Experience, and we are going out on a bang. We have McDonough superstar McCabe Millon with us. I'm Kieran Collins. This is Devin Williams. McCabe, how you doing?
Great, man. I'm fired up to be on here. I really appreciate you guys reaching out and fired up to get some talking going. Let's go.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on here, McCabe. So obviously, you just won the MIAA. You ended your senior season off with a bang after a little bit of adversity. Obviously, I guess like it was a little bit of injury last year. So I want to tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was, rough season for us. Early in the year, had a couple big losses. Usually for them teams I've been a part of at McDonough, it's usually a little bit smoother sailing. But started off a little bit slower, and at the end of the day, it ended up just really helping us out. Learning how to lose really, and knowing what that feeling was like, and not wanting to experience that in the future. And then last summer breaking my hand, just not really getting to play as much in my recruiting summer, which was a little weird. And obviously was fired up to do that, but just kind of learned from it, tried to get better, watched a bunch of film, just kind of focused on working out my legs and stuff when I couldn't do any upper body workouts, and then just tried to make it a positive.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you said you had a little bit of a rough season, or it was a little rough earlier on. How did you as a team like come together and like really prepare and get yourself on like I guess that championship mindset and come back from that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from the start we were a really, really, really close team. We kind of the seniors had set out and wanted to make it, so there wasn't any hierarchy between like the freshmen aren't going to screw around with seniors, and we didn't want it to be any like weird divide between the team, which ended up being really successful for us. And we were really, really close, and even in those moments, biggest win or biggest loss I could think of was St. Paul's, when we only scored 2 6-on-6 goals, which is obviously not up to our standards. And we all just kind of came together and knew that we had the guys to do it. We just kind of had to really just work hard to get our stuff better, and some better chemistry, and go out there and then obviously get on a roll.
And obviously that's very interesting, actually, 'cause that's a very different approach. I feel like a lot of teams kind of go in the opposite, where it's like, oh, stuff like freshman gets the waters, or just stuff like that. We try to create that hierarchy. I feel like you don't often hear about teams trying to like specifically try to break it. Obviously, It works. That's very interesting. And then kind of building off that, obviously championship game, Naval Academy Stadium, just an awesome environment. Just what was it like? Because I unfortunately didn't go. I wanted to, but forgot. But was it just like rocking in there? How was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was really something that, like, being able to do it, in high school with your best friends, like it was unbelievable. I mean, obviously I had heard that at the Calvert Hall St. Mary's game, St. Mary's had a monster section. So we were kind of preparing for that, and we're expecting, a big crowd. And around school, around McDonough, we had, everyone was talking about the game. Everyone was showing up and, giving us props and trying to fire us up. So it was actually really cool. I mean, in my couple of years, I hadn't really seen school spirit that high, and like everyone talking about going to a game. And so it was really cool. And, being able to step out on the field and look up and, see as many guys and as many girls out there, and just seeing a big crowd was, really something that we fed off of. And, we're really grateful for the opportunity. And, especially when we were in a spot, not 3 weeks before, where we didn't even know if we were going to be in the playoffs in the first place. So being able to actually be out there and look up at the crowd and be out there with each other was really special.
I mean, obviously you said you're a close team, but I don't think you any closer than having your own brother be on the team. And you two have such a it just seems like to me you two have such a close connection, a strong connection on the field, all that. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've always been really close. Although like growing up, anytime we had any like sports stuff around the house, we'd always end up getting really competitive and end up probably fighting about something, whether it was a foul call in a one-on-one basketball, or whether a ball was fair if we were playing wiffle ball in the front yard or something like that. So we were always playing really any type of sport we could get our hands on with each other. And I think that's just kind of built up, almost like a chemistry, in that I hadn't really played with Brendan in like any real lacrosse environment before this fall. But we already kind of had like a pre-existing chemistry with each other, whether it was just from being brothers or watching a bunch of games together, or, just always doing something athletic with each other. It just was kind of already there. And it was, just especially with his injury all spring, and seeing how hard he was working to try and get back and, perform for the team. It was just really, really special to get out there and see him play at the level he did as well.
And then kind of building off that, obviously you talked about your relationship with your brother, but you kind of come from a very lacrosse oriented family, both parents in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame. What is that kind of like, that environment growing up? Because we actually interviewed someone similar who's all his brothers played soccer and his dad was the soccer coach. What's it like where your whole family just kind of is lacrosse, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Obviously when people look at it, there's always, the pre-existing thought that, oh, there must be so much pressure. Like your parents must have always been forcing you, all right, time to play lacrosse. But it was actually the opposite. In our family, we never really had like my mom or dad saying like, all right, time to pick up a lacrosse stick. Like, we're both pretty good. Like there was none of that really. So I think that's why I'm so passionate for the sport, is because I kind of found it myself. And obviously knowing that, my parents played, but I really, found the love for it myself. And that's why I think I'm really lucky for that, for my parents in doing that. But it's also, really special to be able to share moments, especially like after the game, like knowing, hearing stories from both my parents about what it's like to win a championship and, the sport that we both love, and actually being able to share that with my parents was really, really special, really cool.
I mean, obviously you're a special player. Are there any like aspects of your game that you attribute to one parent or the other, or things that they specifically taught you that you use today?
Yeah, I mean, I think really the whole foundation of my game comes like pretty direct from my dad. I even carry the stick similar, like run similar, like shoot the ball similarly. Like it's really, really, really similar. Growing up, obviously, like he was an attackman himself. So, when I'd be out shooting and he would come out and help out, like, he'd be able to say, oh, this is how I did something. And then I'd be able to pull it up on YouTube or watch him and then try and replicate it. So really the whole like physical aspect of the game is really direct from my dad, whereas like the mental aspect is usually coming from my mom, where we talk about more like the mental approach and stuff of that nature.
And then kind of building off that, you said how you kind of were allowed to find lacrosse yourself. Was there any other sports you found also? Like, did you play multiple sports growing up? And if so, what
Yeah. So although I'll take that back. I did play a lot of sports growing up. I never like played anything really, really competitively like lacrosse. I mean, I played Little League, baseball. I love baseball. Aside from lacrosse, baseball is probably my favorite sport. I'm a huge Yankee fan, so I watch as many games as I can. And then, I played travel soccer for a while, play school basketball. I really played everything I could. I never got to play any ice hockey. I love hockey though. And I never played any football, but other than that, really just tried to play as much as I could and enjoy playing.
I mean, you played a couple sports when you were younger, so baseball, and you said, yeah, it's just mostly baseball is the other sport. Do you think you like picked anything up from like, I guess, baseball that you could say you use in lacrosse, or I guess vice versa?
It's a good question. I mean, because they're so different, I don't know if there's like really anything specifically. I would say maybe from like the aspect of like trying to be a captain's captain and being like an upstanding guy. Like I loved Derek Jeter growing up, so a lot of stuff like that, just knowing how to after the games, like always knowing not to be like a looking at towards yourself, and just learning it's obviously all about the team, and just getting, I guess, to embody that and see that. And Derek Jeter, I guess, growing up would probably be the biggest thing.
And then obviously you just got named both all MIAA and All American. Quickly, just what does that award really mean to you? And we have some fun follow-up questions we asked.
Sweet. So I'd say, one, everything kind of pales in comparison to even like thinking about the championship. I mean, like, obviously it was really, really cool to, see that all MIAA and All American, especially in a league where, there's so much talent, and, it would be really hard to argue that the MIAA is not the best high school lacrosse league in the country. I'd love to hear someone try, but I don't really think
I've heard some people try. It's not a good argument.
yeah. So that's why it's really, really special, especially knowing the MIAA only gets 5 All-Americans. So it's just really, really cool knowing how many unbelievable players and unbelievable talents there are in the league to be up there with the best of them. So definitely really cool, but nothing like being able to hoist that plaque up last Friday.
Yeah, and you kind of took the words out of my mouth there with how MIAA is the hardest conference. When we asked this to all our guests, who do you think is the best individual player you played against? Where it was like all week or just all leading up to the game, where it's like we got to focus on this guy.
It's a good question. I mean, as I said before, there's so many great guys. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, like, there are a lot of the, St. Paul's always has really great team defense. Calvert Hall is always really, really dialed in team defense. Boys Latin has great team defense. And obviously everyone's going to have great cover guys. And everyone's going to have really good one-on-one players. So, everyone's going to be great there, but the teams with like the best team defense with the best slide packages are usually the toughest to go against, just because, a bunch of guys on our team will be able to beat them one-on-one, but if they can have a slide and a 2 and all that stuff, then it makes it really hard to score. Defensive standpoint, I mean, obviously like Dom Petramal is great. Truitt, Mikey Weisser is unbelievable. And there's so many other guys that, Michael Smythe, I know well, Jake Bear, like all those guys are really, really great players. And, I just very lucky to have the defense behind us that we did this year. And, so there's just so many great talents, so many great players in the league. It's what makes it so fun.
I mean, on the flip side, you played with the championship winning team. Who are some of the best players you played with?
I mean, this year, like Johnny Cool was ridiculous. Defensively, he carried us to that championship. He covered, 2 of the best players in the league in back-to-back games and did a really good job. And then Nicolini obviously is a great, great player as well. And Johnny, held his own there. So, I mean, being able to every day in practice, like go head to head with Johnny. And, I've known him for a really, really long time. He was on my club team growing up. So I've been playing with Johnny since maybe 4th, 5th grade. So, doing one-on-ones with him when I'm 11 years old and now going against him in practice all the time is really fun. And, Malachi Jones as well is on my same club team. So, always being able to get after it with them for so long and then being able to go out on a note like that was really cool.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Johnny Cool because me and Devin actually did a lot of commentary for Severn lacrosse games.
Yep.
And I remember that name on the sheet we got given. And I was like, that is the coolest name I've ever heard in my life.
First team all name.
It was the best name ever. I mean, it was so funny just having to say every time I made a highlight.
Johnny Cool, nothing better.
Yeah, and then the other names you said. I mean, me and Devin, we commented lacrosse, but I mean, I'd be lying if I said I knew the sport like the back of my hand. But just like, so we'd go into games not knowing really what team had what players. We learned those kids' names so quickly.
Yeah,
like it was so evident when just watching so early on, like who is that guy on these teams.
Yeah, I remember one time to say McCabe Millon and Matt Millon and getting that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're always joking around with each other. We're always mixing each other up too. But I mean, how about we got Matt McMillan, Luke Miller, Brendan Millon, and McCabe Millon.
Yeah, no, it was confusing.
Yeah, I don't blame you guys.
And then shifting a little bit to your recruitment process, obviously you just committed to Duke. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Was that always kind of like the target school? Because obviously Duke lacrosse is like on the pedestal. Everyone knows Duke lacrosse. Or like, were you really open-minded in your recruitment?
Yeah, so I was the latter. I was really, really open-minded. Growing up, I never really had like a dream school where, a lot of guys would be like growing up, oh my God, I want to go to Syracuse so bad. Or my dad went to Princeton. I need to go to Princeton really bad or something like that. I never really had that. I was always just, growing up, I just loved, all watching as much college lacrosse as I could. And never really fell in love with one specific team. So, it probably made my process a lot harder because, I was seeing the best in every school because I was, really eager to go to each and every place because, everywhere is something unbelievable to offer. And I'm so, lucky to be in that place in the first place. But, at the end of the day, it was just, obviously, as you mentioned, Duke lacrosse is, really, really up there with the best of them as a program. And then, just an unbelievable school where, I've always been really academically motivated and really interested in school and stuff like that. So it was just the best fit for me overall.
Were there any other schools that you really considered? Like, was it a hard choice or?
Yeah. Duke and Virginia were always really there at the end. I love Virginia. Had a, really a lot of interest in Virginia. It was Duke, Virginia, UNC, Maryland, and Notre Dame were the ones down to the end that I could definitely see myself at. And at the end of the day, Duke just had the most to offer. But, every school is unbelievable and, would be lucky to go to any of them.
Yeah, so like, I guess what were some of the specific aspects of Duke that really just made you feel like at home, like really made it feel like it was like meant for you?
Yeah, I really, in my visit, I had a great time with the coaches. I thought I had a really good relationship that I could see I could start to form with them. Obviously lacrosse recruiting is a little bit different than other sports in that it's really quick. I was the 180th player or something like that to commit, and I committed October 3rd, which is only a month and 2 days after you can commit in the first place. So, it's obviously you don't have time to build like a huge relationship with all the coaches, but, you're talking to them almost every day. And I just really thought that was one thing that I was really comfortable with. And, as I mentioned before, just really, really great school and could, do some hopefully great things after lacrosse with a Duke degree and, looking all the way to the future and not just in the next 4 years, 5 years.
I love that you brought that up already. Like, I guess what are some of the things you want to do, like, I guess, past lacrosse, past Duke?
I'm not really sure yet. I haven't really put too much thought into it. I think that, the main thing that, growing up, I always wanted to do with lacrosse was be able to get myself to a school that I probably wouldn't get into otherwise. And then obviously, like, being able to win and succeed in that and win national championships is at the forefront of, everything I would want to do now. But also being able to, compete for national championships at Duke, but then also, have a great education. So when I leave and, whether I choose to do business or, hundreds of 50 other majors at Duke, like whatever it might be, like, I'll be comfortable with that degree and being able to, whether it's, I'm done with lacrosse after Duke or I want to try and hopefully if I can make it playing the PLL for a couple of years or do whatever it might be, just not going to, not have another outlet after I finish up.
Yeah, well, you certainly have a bright future, and I guess a lot of time to decide for that too.
Thank you.
And then you kind of touched on how lacrosse recruitment is different than other sports. Another way I see it, I mean, you see it in other sports to an extent, but I feel like club and AAU outside of school is so crucial for lacrosse recruiting compared to other sports. Like, can you kind of like talk to us how those scenes are really different?
Yeah. In the first place, like, the high school lacrosse seasons, like, the number one thing, so most focused, like that's the best time that you really are trying to compete and win, like compete for something. But when you look at, the September 1st date, which is the first day the college coaches can reach out to prospective recruits, it comes right after the summer. And obviously you're not going to be playing high school lacrosse in the middle of the summer. So that's all time for club stuff and individual showcases, stuff like that. So, no matter how amazing and, competitive high school lacrosse is, the last impression you're going to leave on a coach before they either call you or don't is, in the summer. So that's, club stuff or showcases or whatever. So, it's definitely very competitive as well. Like there have been a lot of games in my club career that have ended, a little aggressively and have some great rivalries with a bunch of guys, but it's also really, really fun being able to compete with, some of my teammates at McDonough who I've played against club forever. So it's just another really fun way just to get out and play and, have some fun.
But I guess, like, which one do you think you prefer more? Like, obviously high school, you're like with your friends, playing with your teammates, all that, and you're competing for something greater than yourself, I guess. But then I guess as a club, you're looking towards your future, and I guess it's also a great competition with the best of the best.
Yeah, I'd probably like, I've always loved club, and I've had such a great team for all the years that I've played, and I've made so many great friends along the way. But like, nothing really compares to high school ball, just because there's no club game that's going to be at Navy State. I mean, I guess there is nap towns at Navy, but still, like, there's no game that's going to be in a stadium like that with a student section cheering like that. Like, no club game's going to have someone there with a drum. There's going to be no like real chirps coming out from the stand. Like, there's really nothing that like makes it mean as much. And especially we started our McDonough stuff in October, and finished up on May 20th. So that's a lot of time like spent with each other, working towards the singular goal of winning the championship. Whereas club stuff is, have a couple practices here and there, and then play 3 games on the weekend, and maybe 4 if you make it to the tourney championship, which is always fun. But it's a little bit different than working from October through May to try and win.
And then kind of tying that back into the recruitment process, do you think if someone is trying to go play lacrosse in college, do you think you kind of have to play AU, or is there really an alley for like just playing high school?
It's probably going to be really tough. I think that because there's, especially in lacrosse, like the club lacrosse scene is so ingrained in lacrosse culture, and like, Baltimore Crabs and Team 91 and Prime Time and like all these big teams that there have been so many sick players who have always, Loonies, Coopers, like all these teams that people have come through. Like, it's just such a big part of like quote unquote lacrosse lore and stuff like that. So maybe if you're in a really big high school where you can get a lot of attention from coaches, and obviously high school is like a better representation of what college lacrosse would be like, because club stuff is not going to have full team defenses and different offenses and stuff like that. It's a little bit more of like, you guys are all good, roll the balls out and play. But I'd probably say it would be tough, but just because club lacrosse is comes right up before the summer too, or right up before the fall too, when you're going to end up getting recruited in the first place.
Yeah, and you kind of talked about the friendships you make and how they carry over into like high school season. I always find it interesting when I go to lacrosse games how it's like they could battle it out forever, and then I see them taking like kids from opposite teams taking a picture.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, they played club together. Like, I feel like that's a really cool bond you don't see a lot, where it's like a lot of your competitors so at the top of their like class, and you're always playing.
I mean, that's a really good observation. It's one of the coolest things about it. Like during the season, we can, in the locker room and have, say, screw this team, screw that team. Like, we hate them. Like, it's a huge rivalry right now, but, once, the emotions are gone and of the game, and, you finish up and, you've been, boys with that guy for 10 years and you played against him 100 times. And it's more of like, for now, like, we're still boys. Like, we might hate each other for the 48 minutes of an MIAA game, but still, like, I've played lacrosse with you so long and we bonded over the sport for so long that it's not worth like ever having some sort of stupid rivalry over.
Well, we really don't got that much more for you, but I got one last question, because you were talking about some of the best student sections and I guess the chirps, and I just want to see, you definitely appreciate a good chirp.
I love a good chirp.
You love it. What's one of the best chirps you heard this year towards you?
I didn't get chirped too much this year. I was kind of hoping for it a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
But a lot of times, I just started wearing a calf sleeve this year that, I really was kind of doing just to get a little bit extra swagger, try and look like my favorite player, Connor Schellenberger. I got a couple chirps over my calf sleeve, which to do it for that reason. Like, you're not going to get in my head at all, but
yeah.
And then, we got a couple of in the championship F McDonough chants from the whole St. Mary's section, which we'd love to hear.
Right.
But I'm obviously, I said I like to, I appreciate a good chirp, but I'm never a guy to start it. Like,
Right.
but if someone wants to start it with me, then you open the can of worms. I'll go after you, but
Hey, that's
never
a
would
great
never
game.
start a chirp battle unless someone
All
brings it
fair
to
in love
me.
and war.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I feel like there's kind of this may be over analyzing, but I feel like there's almost an art to. I feel like F McDonough chance. That's a little too on the nose. You gotta be. I feel like you gotta be a bit more subtle, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's you gotta have something a little bit like try and get under the skin a little bit, like
Yeah.
Too
you
basic.
know,
Yeah.
one of our at McDonough, one of our favorite chirps, it didn't work for St. Mary's because they're the only other school, but I like in the MIA, like most of them are boys schools, like all boys schools. So a classic McDonough student section is just the "We Have Girls" chant, which
Yeah.
hasn't been beaten yet. So, and I
We
don't
did
think it
that
ever
for
will be.
Gilman. We did that for Gilman.
Yeah, it's
A
the
tennis
best.
match of all things, but
It's the best chart, and you can't because what are you gonna say back?
yeah. I
So
mean, they responded with Bryn Mawr's up the road, and we are like, oh, there's a girl in my math class.
yeah, like all right, go take a walk over the bridge if you want, but yeah, I mean, obviously, all fun, and
Yeah.
never really had, like we mentioned earlier with club stuff, like we all, we're all in the same area, we all know each other pretty well, so there's never really any like hardcore chirps or anything like that. I mean, at least from my experience, I don't know if it happens with other people, but
Yeah.
all fun though.
Definitely.
Well, that's all we have for you, McCabe. Thank you so much for coming on. This has just been awesome sitting down.
Absolutely, I appreciate you guys having me on. Had a great time.
Yeah, really appreciate it, man. We wish the best for you, and obviously gonna be watching you as you go into college and everything else, and your senior year. So yeah.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Peace, man.